Next project, let's talk about, and a lot of people get confused and whatever. Let's talk about keys, ignition locks. There's good news and bad news. The bad news is that if you make extra keys, you have to buy Piaggio key. You have to buy it from a dealer. The keys, I think, around $35 is a big ripoff, but it's not much I can do. Okay, let's talk about the unit. The only model which doesn't have one of those lockout systems is the Fly model and some of the European models, but all the US models have the CDI unit, immobilizer in the system. The immobilizer, the bad news is, once the immobilizer is activated with the brown key, they are married. It can be only programmed one time. That is it.
So there's no replacing the brown key if it's locked? Okay.
The other bad thing is, in order to program a new key, you need the brown key. So the brown key needs to go in a place where it is absolutely safe, because otherwise, if you ever lose a key or you lose the brown key, you can take the system out, take all the locks out with it, and pay $450, and then you will learn how to take then you will learn how to take care of the brown key. So, once it is programmed, it cannot be reprogrammed. That's it. Done deal. How many keys can be programmed in the system? On LX and ET models, about 5, and the same for a GT or a GTS. You can make another additional 3 or 4 keys. All right? So, but you got to buy the blanks at Piaggio. Then you have to go and make sure, before you do anything else, take the key you have made, and after you cut it at the locksmith, make sure that key works. All right? Now, in order to program a key, you need the brown key. How does it work? There is, Piaggio writes a book about this big about it. It's all bullshit. Because I tell you exactly how it works. First of all, if you have to replace, for any reason or whatsoever, the immobilizer, what you need to do is you put the brown key in. That's what you need in order to program a new one in. Turn it on, off, and out. Take the blue key, put it in, on, off, out. And then you take the brown key again, in, on, off, out. In this speed, and each key single, without anything hanging on there or anything. It got to be just the key, nothing else. Okay? So, in order to program a new key you want to program, you need the brown key. in, on, off, out, new key, in, on, off, out, brown key again to lock the system, in, on, off, out, done.
I'm not exactly sure. It may be that you need to if you have a single new blue key, you may need to reprogram all the blue keys that you intend to use at the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
And the way you would do that is by putting in the brown key on, off. You've opened up the programming in the ECU.
Okay.
And each blue key, in, on, off, out. Next blue key, in, on, off, out. And then to close the programming loop, you have to put the brown key back in, on,
Lock
off,
it up.
out.
It has to be within a
That's-
certain amount of time.
And it's about 2
No,
seconds.
yes, in the same speed I
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, you were very methodical.
But they say, some people say 6, or 8, or all this, just do it the way. And make sure you keep the brown key. Okay? Everybody got that? Everybody happy with that? It's simple, but there's, there's nothing you can do. So once you lose a set of keys, you need the brown key in order to make more. The good part is too, in case somebody buys a used scooter or you don't know or you want to know, the Diagnostic will tell you how many keys are programmed into this system. It will tell you, it gives you key number, it says 2 or 3 or whatever. That will register how many keys are already offered for that ignition lock.
One other thing, if you break your lock, someone tries to destroy your lock, and you have to replace the whole thing, what you get from Piaggio is the lock set with a brown key and a blue key. But you already have a brown key that's
Right.
mated to the ECU.
Right.
Well, if you look at your brown key, you pull out the ring, it has a chip that you can pull up. So you take that chip and you pull the chip out
Okay.
of your old key,
The chip,
and you put it into the new brown key.
Good, because that was one of the questions I was gonna ask, is if we
Yes.
had to buy a whole new,
no.
okay.
So
No, you won't have to buy a new
in
ECU.
case, in case you just do something to this key, the whole thing is all in this
Yeah.
part here.
That's
And
what's
that
married
just,
to the ECU.
that just pops out,
Okay.
that you can use.
Because
But
I'm
you have
more
to
worried
change
where I
locks.
live with the stolen part,
Right,
that's
if you
the,
have to change locks, that chip that's in the brown key has to follow your ECU.
okay, so
So you can
that,
use a different lock set,
good,
but it has to have that chip.
okay.
And then you'll have to reprogram all the blue keys again.
The thing is too, if I get a scooter and it doesn't run, the first thing, I kinda do certain tests. And then, or people complain about this running on this and that. So I got a extra MIU unit, which I can put in, but I need to change the chip. So what I do is I change the chip on the key. But I need the brown key in order to do it. So that's a quick way of doing a diagnostic on a non-running scooter. I mean, it's not for you, or at least you can ask somebody to do it or contact somebody. And but it's not, we're talking $200 just having lay around for testing. But you have no other choice than doing that, because that's the only way, hanging up the diagnostic to find out what is wrong. But you need a running,
So that's
So
why,
be super careful with the brown keys. Anything else you have to add to the keys?
No, I think we did good.
Let's see, keys. Everybody understand what we're talking about? Yeah. Service intervals. Okay, there is major service, there is minor service. What is the difference? The difference is minor services don't have valve adjustments. Major services, valve adjustments make a note every 10 to 12,000 miles. Valve adjustment, valve check. The first valve check is at 12,000 miles. 12,000 miles. That's also, when you get to that point with 12,000 miles, you probably end up with definitely a new belt. The average life of the belts are between 9 and 14,000 miles, but they recommended to replace it at 10,000 miles or 2 years. That yearly stuff I'm not really that happy with, but I just mention it. But I go more by the mileage unless the scooter is sitting for 3-4 years, then I would definitely recommend that you replace the belt. Otherwise, do it every 10,000 miles. It is part of a 6,000 mile service, and then there's the next service is at 12. They changed the intervals for the service too. Now they say 6,000 miles. I'm not all that happy with certain things, but there's not much we can do. What they try to do is get more miles out of it in order to keep the expense on owning a scooter down. So, on minor services, what we do, we check, first of all, each service, it is mandatory to change the engine oil and filter. That's number one. On some of the LX model, they have, and the GT200, they do have a fuel filter. That needs to be changed. A lot of people don't even know they have a fuel filter. Transmission oil,
There's no fuel filter on the 250?
There's no fuel filters on the 250. There is one, but we'll talk about that later. It's in the tank, so they say 30,000 miles, So whatever. And it's not a filter, it's a rock strainer. That's what I call it. That's what it, no, it's that one and that one too.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
That's a fuel
So
pump.
that's what they do. But before you get into that, it's not the easy way. So don't worry, we don't have any problems with it, with GTS models or, and GT models do have a separate fuel filter before the fuel pump. They also have a fuel pump, which a lot of people don't know. The same with the LX also has a fuel pump, which is not a pressure pump. It's just vacuum operated, you can even measure the fuel pressure on it. On the GTS model, it does have a fuel pump, and it has 2 bars pressure, which is around 36 psi. If there's any running problems with it, that should be checked, and we will show you how that works today too. On the major services, or every 2 years, definitely one of the things that should be changed is the coolant. the coolant, and coolant again, everybody has 10 million different ideas. Just depends on what area you live in. If you live in an area where it really gets cold, you need a different percentage of cooling than if you live here in California. The reason they put coolant in it is there is something in a coolant that preserves all the water hoses and all that stuff. What kind of coolant do you use? Hey, whatever you want to use, as long as it is aluminum friendly. And you can, the only thing is, if you have to add some coolant, make sure you use the same type. Don't mix two different brands, like, you know, I happen to use, I use Peak. And you can put it in by, they give you a percentage. And a lot of that information, before I go any further, you can look that up. That is on the disc, which is in here. So that has whatever you want to know, it's on there. So anyway, so on the coolant part, the easy way to get the coolant out is disconnect one of the water hoses, and it's supposed to be friendly. Disconnect the lower water hose. The hose clamps on here can only be used once, so you need a hose clamp. Just disconnect it, run it in something, and then take the coolant to some recycled place. That's what they say, but whatever. That's not my job. So anyway, so that's how you drain the coolant to pass away. Undo the
Cap.
tank cap where the storage is for the coolant. Check the coolant every so often. All you have to do is take one screw out of here, this screw, and take the cover off when you're right there. Make sure the coolant level is always where it's supposed to be, and it will show you how high it is.
Depending on how hot or cold. If you check it hot, the system is pressurized.
Be careful, but wait till it is cold.
Right. And on the tank itself, there are two lines. One is hot level, one is cold level. Cold level is the top one, hot level would be the bottom.
Yeah.
Or no. that's
So make sure.
Other way around.
Other way around.
Yeah.
Make,
That's unusual.
make sure you wait till it is, cooled down. When you add some coolant, you can use, I prefer distilled water. That is the easy way. If you had to add some antifreeze to it, just put a little bit more into it. But try to use the same type. Don't mix, whatever brand with another brand. Try to stay with the same whatever is in there.
What is the downside if you wanted to put a little coolant in and you don't know what brand is in? What is the downside of mixing?
The downside is, I don't know. The downside is if it is bluish looking,
Yeah.
find the blue looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gotta look
There
bad,
is
you have
different coolants have
different
different
colors.
colors. So that is about the
Okay.
only thing you can do.
So the
Yeah.
baseline is, if you don't know the exact brand, at least get the same color.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
That I
same
can work
color will work.
Just add distilled water.
The same color will
You know.
work.
yeah.
Yeah, the same color will work easy.
Doesn't freeze
Now comes the little more complicated part. Fortunately, Vespa products are not that sensitive of having air in the system. When you drain it, you will get some air into the system. Well, this air somehow has to be bled out in order for the coolant to work perfectly, the whole circuit. If you got some air stuck in there someplace, you build a pocket and the coolant will not flow. Fortunately, Piaggio or Vespa products are not that sensitive to it. But that is for GT200. The only way the GT200 does not have a bleeder screw, which means you open the screw up and you can see, listen to the air come out till the coolant comes out, then you close it. Well, GT models or BV200s don't have that. They have, what you got to do on those, for the people who have one, they got to take, there's some real small water hoses going to the carburetor. You got to pull one of those off and watch till you get coolant coming out and put it back on. Finally, on the new models, on the GTSs and later models or master models or everything, they do have bleeder screws. And by bleeder screws, I'll show you what a bleeder screw is. So you can open the screw till water comes out, close it, and everything is good. What you should do then afterwards, let the scooter idle till its electric fan system comes on. In the moment the fan system comes on, you know there's no air in the system. Okay, got it?
That bleeder is real sensitive to torque.
The
Real
problem is
sensitive to torque.
getting the fan to come on a day like it is right now. Probably can idle here for 20 minutes or longer before the fan comes on. So the way Piaggio Vespa built the cooling system, they have an overkill system in it. The system is bigger than it actually needs to be, which is good for us because there is some on 85 to 95 or 100 degree days, you will probably just people say, hey, I got this funny noise yesterday. On days like this, the coolant fan don't even come on unless you really hit stop and go traffic. There was people, they didn't even know they had a cooling fan, or they didn't even know what that noise was, because like in San Francisco, you probably hardly ever heard a fan come on unless you hit some stop and go traffic. You know, so, you know, if it doesn't come on, don't worry about it. Just make sure once in a while you check the level of the coolant, and if it comes on, it is on for 15 seconds, goes off, perfect.
What's the purpose of letting it heat up so that the fan comes on after you refill?
Just to make sure everything works correctly.
So if the fan doesn't come on, that means that it's not
The
circulating?
fan will come on because the fan is controlled by it has a temperature switch on the motor.
Uh-huh.
So even if there's a little air in it, it will come on. But I want to make sure
It's just
that
to
you
make-
check your fan system, because a lot of people don't even know they have a fan.
So the purpose is really just to make sure the fan does come on.
Correct,
Understood.
correct.
How much loss are you getting from the amount of air you have when you bleed it? Is it noticeable filling it up? Or?
It's not very much.
Not very
It's
much,
so little. But what you should do is, after you bleed it, double check and make sure the level of the coolant is correct.
Okay.
You might have to add a little
Just a
more.
little, but not.
But it's not that it comes out by a half a liter or
Right, yeah, exactly.
major amounts, no.
Okay.
A lot of times, I changed it and you open up and nothing comes out. The system, the way they build it, is not that sensitive to air. So when you fill it in, it kind of, you know, runs away and pushes the way the coolant is routed, it pushes most of the air right back out. So it's not that sensitive. I just mention it in case, you know.
Right.
So like on the BV, if everything, you can feel different hoses too and see when it warms up, how, you know, by the temperature of some of the hoses, you can feel how the coolant flow is progressing. Because they're pretty, it takes a long time to get one warmed up. Like I said, it can idle you 20 minutes. Today, probably half hour before the fan comes on. So they're not that sensitive, but it is very important that the level of the coolant is full. That is the important part. Any questions on any of that? Yes.
Where's the bleeder screw?
I will show you.
Okay.
We will show you. The bleeder screw is then, it is in what they call a thermostat housing. The thermostat is what determines the way the coolant flows through the system. So what it does is it needs a certain temperature for the coolant before the thermostat opens up and you use the whole full cooling system. Otherwise, it will run, the coolant will only run in the motor without running to the radiators while the thermostat is closed. On the thermostat, luckily, I never replaced a thermostat in all these years yet. So they are pretty, there are certain parts are really reliable and don't have any issues with them. So if you ever have to do a thermostat, we show you where the thermostat is located, and it's real simple. You take 3 screws, put a new thermostat in it, bolt it back down, case closed. It's real simple. You know, you don't need to pay $120 an hour. You know. It's just, you got to know where is what. And then, like I said, in order to find out how the whole, just touch different places, the hoses, just grab the hose here and see, you know, see if it warms up, because this goes from this is the water pump here. It goes direct to the cylinder head. Here's where it comes back to the system back up. So, thermostat is right on top here. It's very easy to get to. Anybody want to come over here? And look at that. Let me take the seat. Those things are always in the way. Tim.
What happens? Crashing into
Yeah,
Thermostat is right here on GTSs, just so you know. This is the housing, this is the bleeder screw.
Oh, okay. All right.
You see it?
No, I
Yeah,
Right there,
yeah.
that's it.
So you just loosen that up a little?
You
little
loosen,
and
the
confirm?
way to do it is get a plastic hose, put it on here.
Oh, yeah. Before
That's
you do
the
it.
easy
Yeah,
way
yeah,
of doing it,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Get a
right.
plastic hose,
Plan
that
ahead.
way, on all the GTSs, it's an 8 millimeter.
Okay, yeah.
And what you have to do is, you have to go about 3 times
All right.
turns before it lets it out. So it's not like a brake bleeder screw where you just crack it and close it. You have to turn it out.
Can you show me again, because I couldn't see. Where is it again?
Come over here,
I'll come that way.
come over here, come next to me. Right
Just want
there.
to take a quick picture. Point to it again,
So-
please.